484. Committee, thank you so much for returning to this room at the end of all of that fun, and apologies for the temperature inconsistencies in here, even though I am not responsible for it. Agenda-wise, I'm hoping we can finish by 3:30. We are not going to take up H 477. I got a preview of the fiscal note, and there's actually a loss to the general fund because of 477. And it's a little too late in the budget development process to resolve that issue. And so we're gonna pick that back up after crossover is over. The marriage license fees. Bill, you were grateful you had gotten married last year when we started the conversation about it, Representative Meadows.
Sure am.
So we're gonna talk about a House Commerce Amendment to H 484. And then we're gonna vote on the yield bill, and then we're gonna hear about an amendment to 158. It's an amendment to our amendment to 158, so we need to vote on that one. That's the bottom bill. And last, we're just gonna get an update from Chris Roop on a change to the teacher pension contribution structure, which we don't have to vote on, but we should be updated on because it's going in to the budget. And with that, David Hall, hello.
Hello again. It feels like an eternity since I was here.
Yes, it does.
I'm trying to remember when we
You were here.
went through this.
You were here, we went through it, and then I think, and we made an amendment to move the teacher training to the ed fund and to add a paragraph about technical assistance. And then I believe it was planning on going into the budget, and something happened in the meantime. Perhaps
All of
Chairman
those,
Marcotte could update us
all of those things.
context before you take us through it. How does that sound to you, David?
I can certainly.
Because he's right there.
Ah,
Okay, cool.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair.
Thank you so
Afternoon,
much.
committee.
Yes.
Thank you for the invitation.
It's actually in the committee.
Do we have an amendment?
Yes, under committee 484.
Under our committee.
It says committee.
Yes.
David Hall.
Got it.
So now David has found it, Catherine's found it. Mike, the floor is yours. Tell us about your amendment, please.
Under committee, I finally understand what you're saying. Yeah.
So the
I don't see it.
first instance
On our-
amendment is on page 4.
Friday. And then
Section
committee.
10 deals with the climate workforce education campaign and discussions with appropriations and with Advance Vermont. They came in with a shrunken down proposal to apply to work on digital resources and create a centralized information center for it. So we made the changes. We've also reduced the amount from 250,000 to 100,000.
Did you do anything in any of your amending to do anything to the ed fund?
No,
Did you add any fees?
no,
Did you create random taxes at the very last minute?
no.
Great.
And my understanding is that all of this is going into the budget.
Great, okay. Does anyone have any other questions for Chairman Marcotte?
He's got more.
I think that's David.
Sorry. Sustainable jobs?
Yeah.
We made changes
Uh-huh.
but it really doesn't deal with anything that you're interested in.
I mean, we're interested in everything you do, and it's late in the day on
Well, I
Friday.
appreciate that,
Yes.
but I appreciate
Okay,
being here, and if that's all you needed from me, I'm happy to remove myself.
yes,
So I missed it. What is the fiscal impact?
there is none.
Oh, well, then he doesn't need to be here.
Yeah.
Talking with you.
Hi, Michael.
Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed walking up the staircase.
It was.
Sorry to trouble you.
The exercise is always good.
Good, thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael.
And look forward to seeing you next week to talk about veggies some more, maybe.
That might be a good idea.
Okay.
Should we get some people that are anxious?
Let's do that. Bye, Stephanie.
Bye.
Sorry about that. Yeah. David, can you do us like a 90-second scroll through the topics of the amendment?
Sure.
Thanks.
So we did change the source of the funds at this committee's request in section 4 here. So don't forget that happened.
And there were no changes in here. Sorry, I'd like to scroll fast, but it's a long bill. This shrunk the scope of the Advance Vermont Climate Campaign and reduced the amount. They actually increased the amount in appropriations for the VSJF business coaching from 60 to 180. Let's see. No changes in any of this.
Yes, Representative Anthony.
There was the waiver of licensure in the teacher grants for folks to enter the teaching profession.
That's
And
correct. That's unchanged.
it was nothing. I mean, it was $1,000 or something like that.
But that part was not amended.
No.
Foregone. Yep.
But yes, you are correct. I think that was in section 5 too. Anyway, let's see. This, long story short, old money for this is gonna stay old. New money is for, I think they're actually gonna reduce that to 3 million when they put in the budget, but this is for the designated agencies to have tuition assistance and loan forgiveness. They added a dental hygienist forgivable loan incentive program, and they added them to the critical needs occupations. So it was 100 for that. You guys had said to add to this, the Small Business Technical Assistance Exchange, the one sentence in C3, which is here. That money is unchanged. There was one small bit on the community investment grants for wastewater or water districts being able to apply to that program. It was just a wording change. This was new. I didn't write this, Damien did, but this is a modification to the COVID-19 related paid leave grant program. And there's going to be some changes in its administration, and they reduce the amount of money available through that.
And just for the committee, something that we didn't talk about last time we looked at this, I checked in with Abby, who's actually here, conveniently enough, while I'm talking about her, that forgivable loans are not taxable because they're not taxable at the federal level right now. And so we, and since we use federal AGI as the basis, I don't know if, just wanted to be sure that we weren't creating a new benefit that was going to create new tax liability for people.
But a forgivable loan is not the same thing as forgiving a loan.
When you forgive a loan, that's forgivable. The forgiveness on the loan is not taxable as income.
Okay.
Do you want me to add
Did-
clarifications?
What? Sure, yeah, please.
In general, so for the record, Abby Shepherd, Office of Legislative Counsel, in general, forgiveness of a loan would be considered income, but because it's for an educational loan and it's made by VSAC, it is considered excluded from income, so it's not taxable.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
What is the price tag?
Of this bill? I don't know.
Chilled on the floor.
The air conditioning is on here. I felt.
I'm trying to keep a straight face. I really. I do
We're all
not.
very tired.
I don't know.
I had like 3 hours. We don't.
I mean, you know,
Roll it up.
maybe I should, but that's something that Patrick is keeping up with, and I have not been.
Sorry. Get them going?
JFO does know, but there is no updated note on, there is not an updated note on this, and it's an appropriations note, not a waste
Not
management
really a
note.
problem.
And it's going into the budget, and there will definitely be a clear accounting of all the numbers in the budget, which you can access on the appropriations webpage.
Okay. We're here to approve the latest version of it.
We are, I think we're just gonna have a straw poll on this.
Yeah.
It's not even actually,
Because we don't present it anymore now that it's going into the budget, yes? Okay.
we're just checking in on it.
Okay.
We touched it once. We want to make sure we're doing our due diligence. Is there anything else in here, David?
Nope.
Great.
Would you like a motion
Love a motion.
for a straw?
I
Yes.
have a procedural question as well.
I think first bill is a substantive question.
Yeah.
David,
Yes, sir.
section 11,
Mm-hmm.
15.
Lost you.
That's the VSJF business coaching,
Yes,
is that right?
180,000.
Yes,
So that changes, it's highlighted.
it is. It's an increase from 60 to 180. Yes, an increase.
So, did Commerce, they must have took a vote on this.
Yep, Commerce, I mean, this is, well, they technically no. This isn't an actual thing. Procedurally, this bill is in appropriations.
Right.
And so Commerce basically amalgamated all the changes that you proposed, that appropriations proposed, that some individuals proposed, packaged it into this, and then this will go into the budget. So nobody is officially voting on this because this doesn't exist except as a document that I've created that we're all working from. But does Commerce approve of that increase? Yes,
This is scratch paper.
Okay,
exactly. You can make airplanes out of it.
So H484 is not a bill, it's gonna die.
It's gonna live on the wall in appropriations.
Yes, okay.
But all of it's,
Context of it is gonna go into
all the
appropriate.
blood and guts. Okay, procedural question for you,
If we're
Representative.
doing a straw poll on this and we don't have any skin in the game, do I need to record our straw poll?
We actually need to, yes, please, thank you. Unless we want to just do a show of hands. Okay, everyone who feels okay about this bill that doesn't actually exist staying the way it is. Great, everybody who does not.
That's enthusiastic. But
Great.
I think you should write it down and then text the reporter. Oh, we're not even reporting it.
We're not reporting it.
This is, okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone, very much. Thank you, David, for taking us on that journey.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Love today. Okay. In more serious matters, we're gonna-
Workforce isn't-
not that workforce is not serious, but this is our own bill now. I feel so confused.
What's the yield?
That's what I thought.
There you go.
Okay, great, this one, here. Pat looked expectant, felt very, if you two would like to, I don't think we need to hear from you again, Julia, but I appreciate you being here. And Abby, if you could take us through the final language on the yield bill so we may vote. Thank you. Yes.
Great. Don't know if I need to state it again for the record, but my name is Abby Shepherd, Office of Legislative Counsel. Under my name, there is a new document. It's draft 1.2. The only change in this compared to what we reviewed this morning is highlighted in yellow on the second page. And it's in section 2 and it's relating to the reserve. This clarifies that when writing the December 1st letter, and I apologize because I was citing a different section of statute. I imagine no one retained the number, but I realized after the fact I was saying the wrong number. The correct number is now in this draft. When the Commissioner of Tax is preparing the recommendation for the yields and the non-homestead rate, the Commissioner of Taxes shall assume that this $22 million reserve is unreserved and unallocated and applies to that calculation. So that is what this new language does. It's highlighted in yellow, and if you have any questions or other additions, I'd be happy to take those.
I think we are all taking a moment to look. Thank you.
this is essentially boiling this out this morning, just in words, right? I think it's fine.
It's just got the statute for the letter, which is good.
I'm glad we are where we are.
I would move that we adopt this language.
Second.
Representative Beck moved that we adopt our committee bill, the yield bill. And Representative Demrow seconded. Any discussion? Okay. The clerk could please call the roll.
Andrews, yes. Anthony,
Yep.
Beck,
Yes.
Brannigan,
Yes.
Demrow,
Yes.
Maslin.
Yep.
Mattos,
Yes.
Odie,
Yes.
Sims,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Canfield,
Yes.
Kornheiser.
Yes.
Cool.
Thank you, everyone.
Good work.
Where is that beeping coming from?
I was thinking.
I think someone has a
I think it's
device
Peter.
that you text.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
12, oh,
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, I didn't do my full duty, 1201.
Thank
Or
you.
1200.
Thank you. It's okay. It's okay. 1200. Thank you. We're doing good work despite all of this. Okay.
We might need to take a small break while we wait for Chris' group to finish his immediately after the floor testimony.
Okay. Great. I'm gonna,
Can we like jump to?
we can't jump to anything really because we need Christy Morris for 158, I think. Unless, Representative Odie, do you want to tell us about the
So
prepared.
Okay,
As you know.
I do. Okay, so we are actually going to jump to
Oh, God.
158.
Okay.
Let us all pull up the amendment.
Pull up my.
Thank you, Julia.
Yeah,
Have a lovely weekend.
you too.
Yeah, have a nice
Okay,
weekend.
yes, thank you.
And Scott's gonna report the yield bill.
That usually goes to appropriations right after us. Do we send that? No? Okay, all right.
See, sometimes it's things to do the wrong thing.
Portia? There it is. I found it for you.
Do the wrong thing.
It's under our committee as the Morris Amendment.
Okay, so if you look at this Morris Amendment for H 158, you'll see that the House Environment and Energy Committee has voted that our House Ways and Means Amendment to H 158 be amended. So in their first instance of amendment, which is on their first page, the committee prefers their approach rather than ours as to how the beverage container deposit would increase if redemption rate goals are not met. So in their first instance of amendment, beginning January 1, 2028, 5 years from now, if the secretary determines that the redemption rate goal in subsection A is not met for one or more of the beverage container categories under subsection B for 2 consecutive years, then the beverage container deposit for the category shall increase by 5 cents, with a maximum of not more than 20 cents for Venus and liquor containers and of not more than 10 cents for every other container. And to review, the redemption rates to meet are July 1st, 2026, 75%, 2030, 80%, 2035, 85%, and 2040, 90%. So beginning on July 2025 and annually thereafter, ANR will submit to the Senate Natural Resources and Energy and Senate Finance and House Environment and Energy and House Ways and Means a written report with the current beverage container redemption rate in Vermont for liquor bottles, Venus beverage containers, and all other beverage containers. That is their first instance of amendment. That's what they would prefer. And the second instance of amendment from House Energy and Environment and Energy, they heard this committee's strong desire to protect clean water funding when they heard our 11th instance of amendment. And to review what our 11th instance of amendment provides, beginning January 1, 2026, the first $3 million of its sheets goes to the Clean Water Fund with the remainder to the Producer Responsibility Organization. And then beginning January 1st, 2027, the first $4 million of its sheets goes to the Clean Water Fund with the remainder to the PRO. And the House Energy and Environment and Energy agreed with those provisions. And then our instance of amendment also provided that beginning July 1, 2031, the Commissioner of Taxes deposits the first $4 million in its sheets to Clean Water Fund and the rest into Solid Waste Management Assistance account of the Waste Management Assistance Fund. So their second instance of amendment is more protective of the Clean Water Fund than ours. And it provides the tax department 50% for the first $4 million of receipts into the Clean Water Fund, whichever is greater. I don't have their vote number on that. Madam Chair, I turn it over to you.
Thanks. And I'm sorry that, well, we're all jumping ahead because we don't want to sit here, but it means that we don't have the reporter from Environment and Energy. I'm gonna get it by the end of the year. Here with us. And so Carol's been tracking the bill fairly closely since she's a reporter, so we can ask her questions, but she might not have the answers and we'll find them eventually. Yes. That is, I think Tristan wanting to show me something having nothing to do with this. Thank you.
So I was just remembering that first part about whether to move forward with escalator on the fees or not was something that we heard testimony from A&R on, that their preference was language that we adopted where they would recommend, but it wouldn't automatically inflate. I guess I'm curious to hear a little bit more about E&E's response to A&R's request and why it's heading in a different direction.
They feel that there's very strict requirements, there's no discretion, and so let it be as they originally wrote it.
We did not take the kind of extensive testimony they did on sort of what that 70% looks like. And in my brief conversations with the chair, was sort of reminded that the goal of all of this is not actually the escheats, which is where we might be focused. But the goal is in fact a better recycling system. And that is where sort of their policy focus is, and they are the policy committee here. So, yes.
I recall that, and I attempted to challenge is too strong a word, but at least figure out what these, in quotes, softer approaches would have been of the representative from A&R. And I really didn't get what you would use instead of the big hammer. So I'm unsatisfied with the alternative, although that's what he urged, excuse me.
And yeah, go ahead.
And we did get a letter after that from the Vermont Public Interest Research Group that explains that in places where they're trying to decrease the streets and increase redemption, that when they've tried other different methods, the thing that works the best is to increase that deposit amount from 5 up so that people are more incentivized to return the containers, the beverage containers.
Yeah, I can certainly live with the other, it's not a big deal. Focusing on recycling, I've said this to a couple of people, not in committee, but I've been concerned about people going to West Lebanon and buying a case of water and bringing the money back. Okay, so that's a concern. But as an alternative reflection on that, if that stuff comes back to Thetford and it gets put into recycling, then we're increasing the stuff that goes back to a factory to come back as new bottles. So it is a side benefit, I guess you could say, of misbehavior on the part of people buying in New Hampshire.
It's not, everyone's allowed to buy things wherever they want. I don't know if it's misbehavior.
Well,
I hear what you're saying. I don't know.
On consumer choice.
Yes, yes. And I understand that not, I don't like having our amendment be amended any more than I think anyone else at this table does.
Right.
And I don't want to offer an amendment on an amendment, and there was sort of lots of mixed messages, and so.
So I'd move, if you're looking for a motion, that we just,
Christie.
Yeah.
okay, I'll hold it.
Hi, Christy.
If you were 3 minutes later, we might have already voted.
I was told 3:30, then 3:15, and then 3 o'clock.
We're just trying to trying to get our work done here. We would love if you would give us we don't need a full bill report. We would just love like a minute on why your committee amended our amendment, because we feel sad.
Sadder.
We were sadder. Yours was 10 pages. For the record, Christy Morris, Representative Springfield, also Environment and Energy Committee. Yeah, so regarding H-158, the amendment that the Ways and Means Committee proposed to the Environment and Energy Committee was well received, but there was a couple of areas that jumped forward. Two of them, in fact, and one of them was the automatic escalator of a nickel to the containers. And we felt that was an incentive for the PROs and manufacturers to educate the public and to a little more of an initiative to keep it at a nickel and to work hard. Instead of the state of Vermont A&R and this legislative body.
And I guess what I'd offer to the committee in that context is, I remain somewhat concerned about having sort of an automatic escalator of any kind, even though, I know that this is not true for the whole committee. I'd be perfectly happy to, have it increase tomorrow. I know that's not true of the whole committee. I don't want to speak about that particularly. But I would be, we have time next session to figure out a mechanism that feels more comfortable for us, if that's what we want to do in the interim, because it would be a few years before this would happen. If it does happen, it would be a few years before it would happen.
So as you know, we sent some participation percentages that we expected the containers to come back at. That's the PRO's responsibility. If they go 2 years in a row without meeting that participation rate, that's what would trigger the A&R request to increase the containers by a nickel. They would have 1 year for the relabeling part of that. So the rollout is not immediate. And just to answer your question, the first part of that question was, we met a lot of resistance when we put the deposit of the 10 cents automatically last year. That wasn't received well. And even though a lot of us felt it was necessary. But now it does have the escalator. That was the reason for putting it in.
I appreciate the delicate bargain you struck in this bill, and I appreciate some of the grace that you offered as we messed with your delicate bargain. So thank you for that.
Oh, no, it's all about this committee right now.
Oh, you said that to all the way to pander to your audience.
So the second part of the amendment was we accepted the $3 million sheets staying with the Clean Water Fund, and then eventually would go up to $4 million before they were split 50-50 with the solid waste program. We just added in or 50%. So it's 4 million at that level, 4 million or 50%, whichever is greater.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay. Anyone? Yeah, Representative.
Christy, can you help me understand? So the PRO is going to track the return rate.
As they do now.
As they do now. And if it doesn't meet the threshold for a couple of years, then on some of the items, the deposit amount increases. When that occurs, does the PRO in any way, are they advantaged by that increase?
Advantaged?
Yeah. Is that something that they would like to see? Does it help them if it increases? If those amounts increase?
The testimony we heard, I think anytime somebody has to do something, it's not well received. In other words, they would have to adjust their labeling. So all of their labels would have to be changed.
Right.
There's some effort to that.
Sure, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is, they're the ones that are standing up the stewardship plan or paying for it, the PRO, the Producer Responsibility Organization. So it is ultimately the manufacturers that do the labeling. And so they got inventory issues that they potentially could have to address. So there is some heartburn there. They don't want it, but again, putting the responsibility back on the PRO for educating the public and marketing efforts. adding redemption centers, more redemption centers to make it convenient for the consumer. And also the more pickups for the Tomra organization or another. Yeah.
When you're talking about redemption centers, they pay the nickel now and they wait 30 days till Tomra sends them the money back. So now if this goes up, they're gonna be out the dime. It's gonna double their cost while they hold their breath for their check.
Could be another, but the money's, it's like the consumer, when he buys the beverage at a retail center, he's out the nickel currently, would be the dime if it does go up to 10, but right now it's a nickel. So we're counting on them to, at some point in time, to go redeem that. It's at a future time. So it's the same scenario with the consumers. They don't usually buy them and drink them immediately. They might put them.
Yeah, but they return it at their
convenience.
Right, and they're not waiting for Tomra to send them a nickel.
Well, that's part of the PRO responsibility is to work with the redemption centers to see that these materials are collected more often or don't accumulate to the level that you're speaking to. That's the intention of this bill.
Okay, there's a degree of us shirking our legislative duties by not having it come back to the legislature, to the House and Senate to vote on an increase.
Okay.
That's what I feel.
Understood.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion that we favorably on committee's amendment to our amendment to H-158. When I say the committee, I mean the Committee on Environment and Energy.
I don't mean to be a smart ass here, but is this divisible?
I believe you. You don't mean to be a smart ass.
Because there's one part of this I like, but there's another part that I'm not hot on.
I think the rules of Mason apply.
Inside the committee room?
Yeah.
Yes.
Really?
Thank you, Carol.
Divided.
Motion is a motion.
It's divisible. I would say that it's divisible if that's your feeling.
Sure, let's divide it.
Okay, I make a motion that we divide the environment and energy amendment to our amendment.
Okay.
Which do you want first, Scott?
I don't know the answer. I don't know. I guess the 1, 2, I guess.
First instance, first, second.
So the first instance of amendment. Scott.
That's the rate goal.
Hey, we should withdraw that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll withdraw my amendment.
thank you. Okay.
I was waiting for a
Second, you're
second.
okay with that?
So would anyone like to move the first instance of amendment, which is the escalator? Okay. Representative Odie moved the first instance of amendment from the House. I'm not going to summarize the whole thing. Do we have a second?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Aslan. Representative.
Oh, you're getting sheepish.
Representative Aslan seconded. Is there any discussion on that first instance of amendment, the escalator? Okay, if you could please call the roll.
Andrews, yes. Anthony,
Yes.
Beck,
No.
Brannigan,
Yes.
Demro,
Yes.
Maslin,
Yep.
Natos,
No.
Odie,
Yes.
Sims,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Canfield,
No.
Kornheiser.
Yes.
930.
Yes,
Sounds right.
thank you.
So is that part of the bill that
That's the,
Canfield was saying ought to come back to the legislature?
Yeah.
How can we make that happen?
I would love if a couple of us could work on some language and maybe even ask the Senate if they would add it in.
That's great.
So this doesn't go into, can I comment? It's a committee discussion. but-
Look at me, I actually don't think you can, but.
Appreciate it for asking.
I don't know if I would have interrupted you. It is going to come back to us. I mean, it's not going to happen for quite a while. So we have some time next year or whatever to find a mechanism that feels more comfortable to us. So if anyone on the committee wants to work on that, I'm happy to pick it up at some other future point. Are you moving the second instance of amendment?
Sure. Sucker's offering to work on the level of sometime in the
Okay.
future.
Maybe so.
But yes, I'm happy to.
Wonderful. Representative Anthony is moving the second instance of amendment, which is the Clean Water Fund.
I'll second.
Well, thank you. Representative Beck is seconding. Any discussion on that?
Yes, so this is where the Clean Water Fund gets 3 million and then they get 4 million.
Indeed.
Greater of.
In our, right, in our version, they got 4 million right along, right?
In our version, they got 3 million and then 4 million, but if it was, might get the Clean Water Fund a little bit more than 4 million if there's lots of money.
Okay,
All right, it's where the base, it's 3 million and the PRO gets the remainder. It's 4 million and the PRO gets remainder. And then the PROs are finished. We funded them,
All
they're
set
set
up.
up. And now what do we have to do? Well, now it's either 50% of these sheets or 4 million, whichever is greater, and the remainder to the solid waste.
Yeah.
That's a long time from now.
Any further discussion?
I mean, I basically don't like it that they amended our amendment.
No.
But I voted yes on the first one. Did you notice?
You did. You did. Thank you.
We got it.
Any further discussion? We have,
We have a motion.
did we have a motion? We have a motion on the floor. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, Representative Anthony moved and
And back second.
Beck seconded, yes. After his division.
Anthony Beck, yep.
Okay, if we could, please call the roll.
Andrews, yes. Anthony,
Yep.
Beck,
Yes.
Rennigan,
Yes.
Demro,
Yes.
Maslin.
Yep.
Meadows,
Yes.
Bodie,
Yes.
Sims,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yeah.
Canfield,
Yes.
Kornheiser,
Yes.
12-0-0.
If we're
No.
working on things, I would just.
Okay, I don't need to be involved in the working on it. Thank you so much.
Do we have to vote on the overall amendment now?
Do we?
No,
No, we just divided it. No, we're good. We just straw polled. We just straw polled
Those
the
are
amendments
very
and
elaborate.
amendments.
Somebody was asked, what was the vote on the amendment that you're sending to us in your committee?
11-0-0.
We already voted out the bill.
Somebody asked that and we didn't know it until you walked in.
What was it?
11-0-0.
Thank you.
So how do we report the amendment?
Hey, Carol's gonna figure that out for herself.
Okay.
Okay,
Stress no.
We just say that the first instance we were 9-3 and the second we were 12.
She's gonna copy and paste.
Don't I present the amendment on the floor and then you would stand up and concur or?
just gonna have to explain
I have to explain our whole amendment, then you're gonna amend our amendment, then I am going to say something else.
You're gonna talk about the elaborate procedure for dividing a straw poll vote and then the results of the straw poll vote on each section.
And keep us.
okay, we're gonna try to move, okay.
Yep, I want to thank the committee.
So much, everyone.
Thank the committee assistant for moving the time up.
No one will know
Absolutely.
what's going on.
Team, we're just gonna hold it together and have only one person speak at a time for just a few more minutes, okay? Can we all do that? I don't know if I can, but I'm gonna try. Okay. Is there anything else that must be said about this topic? Great. Okay, we are now going to go to our last agenda item of the day, which is something we do not need to vote on. We are just being informed of some activities that are going to happen in the budget with regards to pensions. Chris, hello.
Hello, Madam Chair.
So nice to see you.
Happy Friday, everyone. For the record, Chris Roop, Joint Fiscal. I know not only am I standing in the way of you and your weekends, but this is the last thing I need to get done so we can tie up the budget downstairs. So I got a room full of folks down there waiting for us, but hopefully this won't take too much of the committee's time. Sorsha posted something under my name, but that you all can look at, but I think verbally we can go through it and answer any questions. This issue has to do with the contributions that active members of the teacher retirement system pay while they're in active employment. Veteran legislators who were around last session remember the Pension Task Force and Act 114 that you all passed unanimously twice. And one of the provisions in that bill one of the recommendations that came out of the task force was to move away from a flat contribution rate to something more progressive for members of the teacher retirement system. So originally, it was envisioned having a marginal structure like an income tax, where, the more you earn, the more you would pay. There'd be rates, and how much of your income fell in which bracket determined what your blended rate would be. The school business officers raised some concerns about being able to implement a system like that, because it's really complicated compared to the current system where the previous system where everybody paid pretty much one or two different rates. So the compromise that was put in Act 114 was to adopt an alternate banded structure for FY23 and FY24, and basically maintain the originally envisioned progressive structure for 25 and beyond. And there was language in that bill to direct the school business officers and the treasurer's office to work and investigate some of these administrative issues. They delivered a report to the legislature, which is on the legislative website back in January. The recommendation of that report was to maintain the banded structure, moving forward in FY25 and beyond, instead of the originally envisioned marginal structure. So the treasurer's office costed out based on more recent data. What would a banded structure look like to yield the same amount of money that we had been expecting to yield from the originally envisioned rates? And they came up with the rates that you see in my handout on the website and in the legislation. And to make a long story short, the language here would maintain the tiers as the law currently has, but adjust the rates for FY25 and beyond by 5 to 10 basis points. So it's actually a relatively small, and for folks who don't live in the financial weeds, 10 basis points is 0.1%. So it's a relatively small increase from FY24 to FY25 and beyond to yield the same amount of roughly 10.1 million of additional revenue in those future years. So that is it in a nutshell. There is about 3 pages of language that is very technical to transact this. And I believe the intent is, as soon as I'm done with you all, I am going to go down to the House Appropriations Committee, and I believe they will add this language into their budget bill. So I am happy to answer any other questions. I also know the NEA and the folks from the Treasurer's Office are here as well.
I think I must just missed it. Why?
Why?
Why 10.1 million? Why are we doing that?
That was part of the bigger package that was negotiated with the development of the task force recommendations, where both systems, both the state employees and the teachers, had agreed to a series of phased in higher contribution rates over time. So depending on where you were in the state system, those increases were phased in over a 3 to 5 year period. And then for the teacher system, they were phased in over a 3-year period. Why, I think in a nutshell, is the parties that were part of the task force process realized that the cost of the expected future cost of their benefits went up as a result of the assumptions changes that happened several years ago. So while the state had a component of that deal where we, the state, committed to making higher employer payments to the system for a period of time, so too did the members. And the impact of the higher contribution rates from teachers offsets costs that would otherwise fall to the ed fund. So if I'm a teacher and I'm making pension payments, I'm paying toward my normal costs, toward the cost of my future benefit. Whatever isn't paid out of my contributions is paid out of the ed fund by default. This was a way of creating a little bit of fiscal capacity in the ed fund to help absorb the cost of pre-funding the OPEB normal cost.
So this just reflects what the pension agreement from last year. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. It's a different mechanics to yield the same dollar amount.
Okay.
And it responds to the recommendations of the school business officers.
Okay. All right.
This is one time.
No, this doesn't involve more money. This would be ongoing for FY '25 and beyond.
Representative?
Just, I was at the 11th hour when the school business managers came in and said, don't, please, because they didn't have the the IT capacity to simply do it. So this is Representative Gannon, myself, and a couple other people said, let's do it simple. We'll have bands.
Yep.
That they could have integrated in a heartbeat. It was the marginal step rise that they couldn't handle. We didn't know it would be permanent, but that was how it came to be. And it was the recommendation of many people, including the teachers themselves, who said, we think it's fair to have a different rate for different steps, if you will, in the salary structure. And that was it.
And House GovOps is also looking at this, and they did a straw poll that was 903.
Correct.
And that was a mix. There are 3 people that are gone, or a mix of parties.
Yeah, Kristen, I think you just answered my concern before I raised my hand, but the banded structure is, will yield the money that we think it's supposed to.
Correct.
It's fairly straightforward. The language, although complicated, does what it's supposed to do.
Correct.
It's gonna get, you explained it very well. I was just belts and suspenders on confirming what you said.
Absolutely. And I view this as an administrative loose end that needs to be tied up one way or the other at some point.
Representative Odie.
So the basis points is just a one-time thing forever, or does that get adjusted?
That would be, well, the way the law would read is it would take effect for the beginning of FY '25 and beyond until the legislature would. Yeah. But that would be sort of the full phase in of the envisioned higher rates.
Do we need an action?
We're actually going to hear from Jeff.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
And are we voting on this?
We're going to hear, thank you very much.
No action.
We don't need to take any action.
Like smile to Chris and then that means go down.
Well, we can straw poll if folks want to. We don't have.
You said Approps is waiting on.
I think they would appreciate your feedback if you're willing to share it.
Okay, great. Okay, we will straw poll after we hear from Jeff.
Good afternoon, Jeff Fannin, Executive Director of Vermont NEA. Thank you for having me late on Friday to talk about 2 aspects of teacher pension. First being, as Chris noted, the marginal rates and the discussion you just had. Representative Anthony is absolutely right. This the Act 114 from last year was designed to make all the rates marginal, but because of operational difficulties at the school, we worked with the school business officers or business managers and came up with a banded rate. It was 2 years, trying to give them time to implement. Long story short, we're going to stick with the bands. We think it raises the money that Act 114 asked of teachers to contribute towards their pension, in addition to what they'd already been doing, just increases, and these rates will go forward. So we are in agreement that this is good as we get it right now. So perhaps in the far distant future, we can get their systems in place where we could change that, but we're good for now. And they'll carry forward going forward entirely. So any questions about that from?
All good.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. Yeah.
As for the cost of living adjustment, the COLA.
And we voted on that earlier today, that you're welcome.
You're all set. Any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Yeah. Later topic.
Got it.
All right.
A motion would be great.
I move we approve. I guess it's Chris's memo or something.
Yeah, we.
Support the bandit. Support the bandit.
No, we don't need a motion. Let's
Show of hands or?
let's do a show of hands, all in support of
The
language.
banded rate structure, yeah.
Banded rate, there you go.
The banded rate structure. Thank you. Okay. Any opposed?
I did.
That was unanimous. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Enjoy your weekend.
Have a good weekend. Yeah.
Thank you all. Appreciate that. Go team, go.
Emily, what's up, Peter? Madam Chair.
You move that we adjourn? I'd second.
Representative Anthony.
I'm just back to anything you must say on this issue. In respect to my good friend from Fairhaven, he's right, there's a cash flow issue between the proprietors and the customers. And the customers and the redemption center do not control that. Tomra does because of the way the checks go. I'm expecting that the proprietors organizations, if they start losing redemption centers, they're in deep because they need them. So they will cure the cash flow as an incentive to keep the network viable. Because if it's not viable, it's on their dime that they replace a redemption center that goes out of business. That's my theory. So they'll fix the cash flow.
They being the PRO?
Yeah, yeah, that's what I,
And the PRO does have new requirements on it too.
yeah, they have to maintain that network. So
It is a better system than before, yeah.
Yeah, I've said this to a couple of people in committee, but not to everybody, on the issue of the two ways of doing things, getting everything into the waste stream and getting it recycled that way, or the method that we've chosen. And I, from time to time, express concern about people, did I say this already? People, bad behavior, going to New Hampshire and buying stuff and recycling.
You did, yeah.
Said the whole thing already?
Yeah,
Okay.
I have a feeling we'll have more opportunities to debate this at length
Anyway,
Okay,
in the future.
yes.
just there's a benefit to people going to New Hampshire and buying a case of water and then recycling it, because more of it gets to genuine recycling.
doesn't end up in the landfill.
So I thank everyone and I encourage anyone on the committee to work on this issue over the next year or two and talk to the Committee on Environment and Energy
Yeah.
about it. We are going to end our day together. Thank you, everyone, so much for some incredible work this week, some incredible work on the floor. We're gonna have a lot more on the floor next week. But we'll have a lighter week in committee. Appreciate you all.
Report, we know it already,
Yes.
so I don't